This beanie is giving me like Seven Dwarves energy, but the alternative was greasy hair and I was impatient, and so this is where we are at. You're welcome. Hello, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new here. My name is Noelle. The 7 is my Enneagram type, and also about as many projects as I am attempting in the month of June, like just for fun, because I needed drama and chaos in my life, even more than usual, I guess. And happy Pride. For some reason, I just decided to do everything that I've been wanting to do as far as like secret TBR and readathons and all the things in the month of June, and I can't be tamed. I can't be stopped. Unrealistic? Perhaps? Yes. Gonna do it anyway though. Gonna try my bestest. And I have quite a stack and multiple spreadsheets and bingo boards and checklists and all of the things, and we're just gonna embrace it. The overarching theme of the month, ironically, is whatever-a-thon, which is hosted by Maddie at Book Browsing blog, and the idea is just to read whatever you want. But there is like a big bingo board, there are teams, it's competitive, and as usual, I've gone full send on the readathon front, completely overcommitting and just pretending like that's completely attainable. So for whatever-a-thon, I have joined Team Sunset Scholars? Sunlight Scholars? Sunset Scholars. And Sunset Scholars has a handful of like team-specific prompts, as does every team, and I liked theirs the best for what I wanted to read this month. So that's what I went with. And also there's a gigantic bingo board with all of the reading prompts, all of the team-specific prompts, and all of the like non-reading fun life prompts for the month. And the bingo board for Sunset Scholars looks like this. And my bingo board that I Frankensteined together in Photoshop looks like this. So
somebody help me.
Every single thing on this bingo board has another purpose for me reading it. I just mad scientisted all of these other projects into one and called it whatever-a-thon, and now I'll get points for all of them. So I'll tell you what all of the prompts for whatever-a-thon are, like that I'm applying them to, but then also all of the other things that are not secret that I will tell you also. Is any of this making sense? I don't know. I hope so. I also have all of my books that I'm attempting for whatever-a-thon in my Storygraph under the reading challenge for Sunset Scholars whatever-a-thon. I think every team has made a different Storygraph challenge, because each team has like the special prompts, which is the best, and I'm so excited that that will just track itself, because I've added all of my books for each prompt, and as I read them, it will automatically calculate how far along I am in the progress and remind me which books I still need to submit for which prompts for points and all that good stuff. So if you haven't joined Storygraph and you are participating in whatever-a-thon, this is your sign to join Storygraph and then find your team challenge for whatever-a-thon, because listen, the reading challenges in Storygraph is the most satisfying thing, and it's one of my favorite things about that platform. If you want to follow me on Storygraph or be my friend, all of that is below. I also have a whole Storygraph video of me setting up my account and discovering the beauty of the reading challenges. So anyway, so first priority, main priority for the first half of the month is to finish my reading list for the Women's Prize for Fiction shortlist longlist project that I've been doing since March. And there was only 10 on my list that I wanted to get through since March, and I just spread it out over the course of like 3 months, and now the deadline is like 2 weeks away because the winner is announced the 15th, the 14th or the 15th, and I want to have my list completed by the time the winner's announced. So I have like 2 weeks to read the last
6
on my list, because I'm the best procrastinator there ever was. I really gave myself 3 months to read 10 books, and in 3 months I read 4 books, and now I have 2 weeks to read 6. So what else is new, really? Most of these I've talked about a handful of times, and when I release that video, because there will be a Women's Prize video, I will go into way more depth on all of these in that video. So to quickly pass over all of them that I have left, I have The Bread the Devil Need by Lisa Allen Agostini, which is really cool because this is, I think, a debut and the author is from Trinidad, which is like kind of the wild card underdog that made the shortlist for the Women's Prize, which is super, super fun. And this is contemporary literary and has a lot to do, I think, with domestic abuse. So gonna be treading cautiously on that front, but it sounds amazing as far as like the craft and the writing and everything goes. I've heard only great reviews. Very excited. And this and the next one, also for Women's Prize, I think these two are the only two that I could not squeeze in on my bingo board, but I think I can double count books for prompts, so I'm gonna double check that and maybe submit them to double count as like certain things, just not for the bingos or whatever. But the other one that's not yet on the bingo board is Salt Lick by Heidi James blurmed it. Salt Lick by Lulu Allison. This is not on the short list, but when the long list was announced in March, Noelle, this was one that really jumped out at me that I hadn't heard of before, and I think that was the same for a lot of people. And this is a dystopian climate nature-y mystery that I think has a point of view from a cow at a certain point. It just sounds weird and interesting and unique, which is obviously, we love that. These two and the next one, I'm bringing on a little weekend trip that is going to remain a secret for now, but it'll be a good old time once you see what's happening. So then the next one for the Women's Prize, again, is The Island of Missing Trees by Elif Shafak. This did make the shortlist. Almost gives me Romeo and Juliet kind of vibes. It's like a forbidden love from two different cultures, and they meet under this fig tree, is like their secret rendezvous spot. And eventually either they move or they get together and then they move, or something happens and they take a branch or something from that tree with them. Clearly I know nothing about this book, but all I know is that there is a perspective from the point of view of a tree. So that was like an unintentional theme of the last couple books, is like non-human POVs. But I think it'll be good. I think it has a lot to do with like roots and culture, vague magical realism. What else do I need to know? Nothing. I am in a silly, goofy mood today. And this one is on my bingo board because one of the prompts on the bingo board is blank color on the cover. And so I did a random color generator, and what I got was bottle green, which I actually had quite a few books on this TBR that have bottle green on them, including this one. All of the leaves are that like bottle greeny color. So that's where it's at on my bingo board. Next for Women's Prize, I have The Sentence by Louise Erdrich, which is also signed, which I don't know if I've told you that before, but it is. And I think that's pretty neat. This also made the shortlist, and I've heard great things about this author, but I have never read any of her work, so I'm really looking forward to it. And follows the story of this small independent bookstore in Minnesota, and their like most annoying customer dies and then haunts the bookstore from beyond the grave. They just cannot get rid of this annoying regular patron at this bookstore, which I think sounds like such a fun way to tell like a paranormal kind of story like this. And this, for my whatever-thon prompt, is the book about books prompt, because it takes place at a bookstore and haunting a bookstore, so that was good enough for me. Then the next for Women's Prize is Papa Show, which I've talked about quite a few times on this channel already without having read it like a silly goose. This is a standalone surrealist fantasy on this archipelago called Papa Show, where everyone on the archipelago is gifted with some mysterious magical ability of some kind. However, this one person is never given an ability, and it's kind of a mystery as to why, and he's kind of outcast because of his lack of ability, as far as I can tell from the synopsis and everything. So very intrigued, very excited, and for the whatever-thon bingo board, this is the one-word title prompt is where I stuck it. And hopefully it ends up being a quicker read. For some reason I'm intimidated and I couldn't not tell you why, but this one is the most intimidating that I have left from the Women's Prize stack. Last on my list for Women's Prize is Great Circle by Maggie Shipstead, which is like the longest one that I saved for last. Why would I do that to myself? I'm gonna try and get it on audiobook, I think. I thought that I had bought it, the physical book, because I was gonna buy it secondhand from Pango, and then I chickened out and didn't actually buy it. So I don't have the physical copy, which is fine. It's like 600 pages. So I know I read faster via audiobook anyway, so I'm gonna try and get the audiobook, and that will be my little traveling train journey, road trip journey audiobook, hopefully, and we will get through it. This is one of my most anticipated from the long list, and it's a dual timeline of this woman who becomes a pilot in the early 1900s. I forget which decade exactly. And then another timeline in like a more present time about an actress who is cast to play that pilot woman in a modern film. And the mystery is this pilot woman disappeared shortly thereafter, becoming a woman pilot. So it's mystery, it's historical, it sounds really exciting, and I can't wait. Oh, and that one is in my bingo board for a 2021 release. So obviously most of the Women's Prize books were released last year, but Great Circle was just the one that I used for that prompt. I guess I could double count it, you know, could double count all the books for that prompt and just get the extra points. So I might do that anyway. Most of the rest of these books are queer and have to do with some kind of pride identity, which is exciting because, you know, what a great time to read queer books during Pride. I have Fiona and Jane, which is actually pretty short. It's less than 300 pages, which is exactly the prompt that I used it for on the bingo board, because I'm a genius. This is an adult contemporary about two best friends over a couple of decades and the way that they explore friendship and sexuality and life over the decades and growing into the women and their identities that they decide to embrace. And I've heard pretty good things, so, you know, we're gonna get to it. Next I have One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. This is going to be my very first of their books. I'm stoked to finally get to Casey McQuiston. I know that this one, people either love it or hate it. I will see where I land, but usually time travel, time loop, that kind of situation really gets me, so I feel like I'm gonna have a good old time. This is a sapphic urban sci-fi kind of a romance that takes place in New York City, and I believe highlights a whole handful of different queer identities, which I'm really looking forward to. And the bingo board slot that I put this on is the multiple S's, because I think there's like 6 or 7. Oh my gosh, wait. 12. There are 12 S's on the front cover, so that counts for multiple S's, I should say. Next I have Fun Home by Alison Bechtel, which is a queer graphic memoir of her growing up and exploring her identity and sexuality and gender and all of these things. And maybe predictably, I put this in the bingo board for shiny cover because this is like the most aggressively foiled cover that I own. It's like almost mirror status. So that's where it's going. Then next I have In Deeper Waters by F.T. Lukens, which this is, I just put this in my 5-star predictions video like 2 weeks ago, and I'm getting to it because what better time to read gay pirates than Pride? 'Tis the season, baby. This is a young A fantasy.
Young A, can I speak?
YA fantasy about a young prince who goes on his like coming of age tour as a young man, and then somehow finds this prisoner and they have a connection, and then they are separated and then they reconnect, is basically what I gleaned from this little paragraph. And that's all I need to know. Also, this cover I would frame. I would blow this up to like a giant poster size and hang this in my home. I'm obsessed. Oh, and this is on the bingo board for a recent haul. Recently hauled. Then next, I have Sappho's Bar and Grill by Bonnie J. Morris. And this is about a women's history professor who walks into her local lesbian bar to kind of commiserate and like talk about, you know, seeking love advice from her friend, the bartender. And somehow she gets like swept into this time vortex where she meets all of these women role models that she like has her students learn about, but now she's back in time actually talking to these women. It just, Sappho's Bar and Grill is just such a good title, and I believe that's the name of the lesbian bar. And this is on my bingo board for the academia prompt because, again, our main character is a women's history professor, which is good enough for me. Next up, we have Gender, a graphic guide from the creators of the acclaimed Queer, a Graphic History, which I also want to track down and read. But for now, we have this one, which is, as you might expect, a graphic nonfiction, all about gender and gender expression and exploration and fluidity and all of those good things. Just from flipping through, I can tell that I'm really going to love the structure and art style, not to mention, like, you know, the content and all of the cool ass lessons that it's going to unload on me as well. I'm just so excited to read this and also pick up all of the other books that these writers and artists have collaborated on because they all sound amazing. For my bingo board, I've put this under the one that's like different format because this is the only graphic nonfiction that I'll be reading in the month. I mean, I guess I'll have the graphic memoir, which you could say is also graphic nonfiction, but I would consider those different subgenres of nonfiction. Now I'm over-explaining, but you get it. You get it. We're reading it for different format, and also because how freaking cool does it sound? The next two that I have are my two book club books for the month, and they are also both queer because, you know, hello. The first one for Found in Translation Book Club is Notes of a Crocodile. This is translated from Taiwanese, I want to say, and is considered kind of a modern cult classic, and this was published in the early 90s or maybe even late 80s.
In its like original language publication, publication in its original language. God.
Which, to think about a queer coming of age story being published 30 years ago is pretty remarkable, I would say. And I can't wait to read this and digest and discuss with the Found in Translation Book Club. So I will leave the Discord and everything below for that if you'd like to join with us. We read a different novel in translation every single month and discuss on either my channel or Brittany's channel at Literally Smitten or Annie's channel at Annie's Book Nook. This one in particular will be on Annie's channel, so hope to see you for that discussion. Very, very much looking forward to it. And then for my book club, Hot Girl Book Club, I'll be reading When Women Were Dragons by Kelly Barnhill, which I think is her adult debut. This is the author of The Girl Who Drank the Moon, which is a middle grade fantasy that I also loved. And my guest for this month is also Annie from Annie's Book Nook. This is a sapphic fantasy / historical fiction about this mass dragoning event that happens in 1955, where hundreds of thousands of women and girls across the world spontaneously turn into dragons, leave this fiery trail of destruction, and then fly away and disappear. And everyone is like left on Earth, or, you know, in society, to live in the ramifications of a bunch of random women turning into dragons. Like, what would you do after that? In the late 50s and 60s and 70s, like, what would happen? I just think it sounds so good, and knowing how Kelly Barnhill writes fantasy, this is such a highly anticipated release for me. I can't wait to see what Annie thinks of it and what everyone thinks of it in Hot Girl Book Club. Again, you are more than welcome to join us for this one as well. A large reason that I chose Sunset Scholars was because one of their team-specific prompts is a book with dragons. So this is the one I chose for that. And I'm also counting it for a book from your favorite genre, which I would say is like historical fantasy or like mysterious fantasy, kind of like oddball fantasy, whatever you would classify this as. And then Notes of a Crocodile, I put this one for the, a, and, of, or and in the title because it has of and a in the title. And then I also put this to double count it in my least read genre because like coming of age contemporary is not a genre that I read like very rarely. This is on the border of being considered a classic. I would definitely say it's a modern classic, and I surely don't read a lot of those. So here we are. And then I also am gonna attempt a couple of arcs. First arc that I'm catching up on, it was published like last year, but it's Edge Case by YZ Chin, and I think it's like a super teeny tiny. I feel like I've seen it in bookstores, and it's like a really, really small, almost like a novella kind of a book. And this is the author's debut, and this says, after another taxing day as the sole female employee in her New York City tech startup, Edwina comes home to find that her husband Marlon has packed up a suitcase and left. The only question now is why. This also has one of my favorite blurbs, which is poignant and darkly funny. And that is a blurb that I see on everything. So much literary fiction has the blurb, poignant and darkly funny. Now that I have noticed it, I can't unsee it. It's like the classic line, she let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. It's that equivalent. I see poignant and darkly funny everywhere, which is maybe a good sign, you know, maybe it's like a little sign like, oh, Noelle, you should read this. Oh, that one in my bingo board I put as last letter to first letter because it starts with E, and a lot of the other books on this bingo card end with E. So I'm just gonna have to remember that after I finish one of those books to pick up Edge Case at some point, because I felt like it gave me the most flexibility throughout the month because it gives me options. That's my final answer. Then I also have an arc of From Bad to Cursed by Lana Harper, and this is for the Continues a Series prompt, and this is the second book in the like Witches of Thistle Grove like witchy romance series. The first book was Payback's a Witch, which is a book that I wholeheartedly loved, and a lot of people wholeheartedly despised, which is just perfectly a-okay. But I'm excited to read the sequel. I mean, it's kind of like the romancy sequel where now it's not like a proper sequel, like it's just a different couple, but in the same like universe town. So I don't know if it's sapphic like the first one was, or if it's a different queer couple or what, but I'm just excited to read it. I can't believe it's out already. I think this already was released in the spring. Oh, also, I forgot to mention 2 other readathons that are happening in June that I'm like the most excited about is one, Suns Out, Buns Out, which is hosted by a bunch of really cool, fun people on BookTube and Bookstagram, and I will link all of that below. I'm so excited. It's from the 20th to the 26th. I think it's like a week-long summery readathon because my favorite season is summer and my least favorite season is fall, and fall gets all the love on book, internet, and everywhere. It's just everyone is fall, fall, fall. I could care less about fall. I love
Summer.
a summer readathon happening, and I was like, I'm there. I'm there for a summer readathon. And I'm pretty much like double counting a bunch of the books I've already mentioned for whatever-a-thon and other stuff. I'm just gonna read them in this specific week so I could count them for the Suns Out, Books Out prompts, right? Huh? The first prompt for this readathon is a yellow cover, so I picked Edge Case because it's mostly yellow and it even has tomato, like tomato vine, which is just the most summery cover that I probably could have picked. I feel very proud of myself for that one. And then also a chiller, which is described as a chill thriller, and I don't really know what that means. So I picked From Bad to Cursed also because it's like a mystery but cozy with romance. And that's about as thrillery as it gets on this channel for the most part. So that's what I'm gonna count. If that's breaking the rules,
Then I'm breaking the rules.
then we also have a book with an island, ocean, or beach setting, and so I picked In Deeper Waters for that one because hello, summery pirate book on the ocean. I'll take it. Then the last reading prompt for Suns Out, Books Out, there's a couple of non-reading prompts also, but the last reading prompt is a book chosen by a friend. And since this also falls within Read or Dare, I'm gonna save that for whatever my TBR wheel lands me on during Read or Dare that weekend. Which brings me to Read or Dare. If you did not see our announcement videos a couple weeks ago, Read or Dare Extraordinaire, we're back. Electric Boogaloo is returning June 24th through 27th, where we do a bunch of silly dares on live stream. It's basically like reading sprints, but for much longer and higher stakes and a lot of silliness to be had. And I will be doing silly things with my co-hosts and creators of the readathon, Christine and Mo from The Roomies Digest and Rachel from Let Me in the Library, and also a whole bunch of our other bookish friends will be joining us for the live shows. And each of us hosts have a special TBR wheel that each other host gets to put a book on each other's TBR wheels, and then we get to put a couple books on our own TBR wheels, and there's also some like audience pick options on our wheels. So there's a lot of potential for wildness to be had on those wheels. I have no idea what's gonna happen. So I'm just leaving a big question mark blank space for that weekend in June. And then the very last thing on my June TBR right now that you may have seen when I teased my full bingo card is Mistborn.
Again.
This time, I'm not even gonna say that. Mistborn is on the TBR again, and for the fans keeping track at home, I think this is like 5 or 6 times. So guess where I put it on the bingo board? TBR veteran, or like previous TBR. And also, I think it was a host favorite, so I put it there. And I could probably triple count it for multiple S's. Read or Dare will be 1 year since Christine sent me this book and wrote me a beautiful letter on the inside. So I'd really like to read it this month. Because it's way past ridiculous at this point. And I just want to read it. I want to be in the know. I think this is shorter than Great Circle. Like looking at the audiobooks for both, I know it's shorter than Great Circle. Great Circle is 600 pages, and this one is like 530. What am I doing? We're gonna read it. That's my TBR. I only have like 2 audiobooks on this list, and most of these are physical books that I aggressively committed to, fully knowing that I only read a handful of physical books in a month. So we're just gonna pretend that I didn't know that and do our best. And who knows, maybe I'll just have the most legendary reading month of my entire life, and we will all be laughing a month from now. Oh my god, this is so ridiculous. Who do I think I am? This is outrageous. No, it's fine. This is completely reasonable, and so don't ask me to hang out in June because I got plans. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you are participating in any of these readathons, if you are reading any of these books, if you have read any of these books, all the things. I'd love to know. Also, don't forget to like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see more from my silly little dwarf face, and I will see you next time for more good old times. If you would like to hang out with me outside of this little YouTube box, you're welcome to come follow me on Instagram for a different social media box. In the meantime, I hope you are well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Love you, bye.